for those people that have a content engine that's running, it's working, they're getting clients from it, how do you scale it? Because you don't want to scale it before it actually works. So, and I'm really starting to focus more and more on that back end piece, which is, how do you build out all the mental frameworks and the workflows to really just like build a content machine.
We're live for another episode of Agency Growth Engine, and I'm excited to talk to our guest today. But before we do, I need you to do something for me. Go leave me a review on any podcast, wherever you're listening to this. It really means a lot to us. We have thousands of listeners and only a couple of reviews because I know people don't like to take the time to do that, but it literally takes 10 seconds. So just hit the 5-star, hit the 1-star, tell me that you hate me. I don't even care. I just want some feedback from you. And I'm excited today because I have Stephen Pope of SGP Labs. And Stephen, I'll just tell you kind of how I know you. You are on every platform all the time talking about how to automate your content, how to make workflows for your content to make it easy so you can post 24/7 all the time without tons of work on the back end. It's so good to have you. And I would love for you to share a little bit about your agency. And then I wanted to jump into how you've grown your agency. I think you've grown since the last time we've talked, and I'm excited to work through that.
Yeah, I appreciate the intro there, and I guess my content's working because you said exactly what I do.
Just tell me a little bit about your agency. Last time that we talked, well, I'll share this. So right now you're projected to do about $500,000 in revenue this year, which is awesome. You have about 5 team members, and but I know the last time we talked, and it's been a while. You've grown since the last time I talked. So who are you working with right now, and what services are you providing to clients?
Yeah, so I really offer 2 things, and it's one, how to create persuasive video content. So how do you get the content engine running? And then assuming for those people that have a content engine that's running, it's working, they're getting clients from it, how do you scale it? Because you don't want to scale it before it actually works. So, and I'm really starting to focus more and more on that back end piece, which is, how do you build out all the mental frameworks and the workflows to really just like build a content machine? How do you create, repurpose, and distribute content at scale, kind of doing the Gary Vee model, but with a cost-effective team and without a lot of your time?
Yeah, that's the part that I think a lot of people miss sometimes about the Gary Vee model. It's like, yeah, just do a ton of content, but they don't talk about how big his team is, and they're always recording him. And I've listened to some interviews of how they follow him around, and it's amazing, right? But they're like, hey, I'm waiting at the door in between a meeting. As soon as he's done with his meeting, I run in, I throw him something, I say this, and I record it, and then I go on a trip, and I'm in the elevator, and I'm recording him, and I'm capturing things, and I'm asking him questions. And then anytime he's standing somewhere talking with people, we're recording him. So Gary Vee isn't actually sitting there creating all the content. There's just a huge team of people that are following him around, coming up with ideas. And so number one, a lot of us don't have the benefit of having that idea team around us. And number two, we don't have that big of a team. So how do you come in and kind of solve those 2 portions of the puzzle?
Yeah. So number one, I have this idea of like a content creation framework. So everyone's a little bit different on how they want to create the content. So we have to be a little bit creative on how we're going to get you on camera. Some people don't have any problem coming up with ideas. Some people can't, for the life of them, come up with an idea. I was just talking to another guy. He's like, I don't know, like I'm good one-on-one with people, but I can't just come up with a bunch of ideas. So it's kind of getting creative and like deciding, okay, how are we going to get you on camera on a regular basis? A team member could do rapid fire. You could do a podcast. You could just go on podcasts and record yourself. So I'm recording myself right now. I've got my own cameras all on me, right?
So let's work through that. So let's use you as an example. So right now you're on this podcast. How are you going to repurpose this podcast? Or maybe you're not, but like if you were going to, how would you do that?
I will.
Okay, cool.
As soon as I'm done, like I'll just drop this file into Google Drive. Google Drive is going to pull that.
So where's the file coming from, first of all? Like what file are you dropping?
Good question. So I'm recording this on OBS, and I have 2 different cameras on me, and one of them is horizontal.
Can you flip to that one? I want to see it. Can you flip to it?
I'm assuming Riverside will be okay if I change cameras.
Yeah, we should be.
Oh, it won't let me change the camera.
Oh, you have to change. Okay, got it. Yeah, so I have a switchboard right here. So I have this camera, and I shoot another piece of content back there. and it allows me to do that. But I could. You probably have to like.
I could actually be doing that on OBS, but I'm just not set up to feed it to you. But yeah,
perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I got a vertical and a horizontal, and then all the lighting. OBS is recording it. When I'm done, I'll just take that video. I'll drop it into Google Drive. Google Drive is going to pull that into Airtable. It's going to also drop it into Frame.io. If you know what that tool is, it's a new tool that I've been using a lot.
So tell us what's Airtable and what's the second one that you said.
Airtable is like spreadsheet on steroids. So for me, it works as my content hub. So every single piece of content that I create is in my system. I've got 3,500 pieces of content. Every one of them has a unique ID, direct links to the files, the copy, the media, the images. The key piece of being able to do what I do is like organization. That's step number one. Hyper organization, categorization, so that the team is never hunting around for a single thing.
Got it. Okay, so that's Airtable is going to take each piece of content. It has an ID, so you can actually in date and you can go find it. So it's not just like in a Google Drive with a million other things or a Dropbox with like 4 billion
Google
files.
Drive sucks without like direct links to stuff.
Yeah, it totally stinks. And then and then what was the second product that you said you had?
Frame.io is another product I integrate with. Okay. So for repurposing, it doesn't really play a role yet. This video file will drop into a Kanban board with a bunch of other videos that are waiting to be processed. Somebody can say, okay, I'm going to take the Agency Growth Engine podcast. I'm going to start pulling that down. So they'll move it into in progress. They'll pull that video down. It'll go into Descript where they can make the clip. They can, if you know what Descript is, that's a tool. It's a really cool tool. Even if you use Adobe for your video editing, Descript is awesome for just selecting clips. So somebody on my team will start to select clips from the video. And then from there, you can finish the clip entirely in a Descript. You can, if you know who Alex Hormozi is, you can actually produce clips of that, almost of that quality just in Descript if you know how to use it correctly. Or you can export the timeline of the clip to somebody that's in Adobe. So we just share the Descript project with somebody that like an Adobe editor, or somebody finishes it in Descript, and then they'll do whatever they need to do to make those clips the way you want them. Captions, emojis, all that sound, if you want them or not. Yeah, everyone has theirs. You don't have to copy Alex Hormozi. Yeah, and then from there, all of those clips get exported back out, and they get dropped into Frame.io, where people can. That's where you can actually view the video and provide feedback on it in kind of, I'm not going to say real time because it's not actually real time, but per second you can draw on the video, you can provide feedback, and the video editor can get that, can make the edits, the tweaks, and then they can resubmit those. And then Airtable is also just facilitating the communication with the team with Frame.io and Slack, and just letting people know what videos are on their plate, what status they're in. Is there copy that needs to be written? Are there images that need to be done? Just making sure people know about that stuff in Slack. What do you need to know right now? And then ultimately, once it's approved, it'll go to distribution.
And who approves it? Do you approve it, or do you?
It kind of depends a little bit. So like, as you start to trust your team and your team matures, like some of these things can kind of develop over time. So I kind of pick and choose what I like. Most of my YouTube videos, I'll run through all of those. I don't review every clip anymore.
I was going to ask you, so the part that I've struggled with, and the part that took me the longest to create, and we're still fine tuning it, is how to pull the proper clip, right? So we're going to talk for an hour now, or we're going to talk for 30 minutes right now, right? So this is a 30-minute conversation we're about to have. And there's 2 or 3 good, really solid clips that need to be spliced up and cut down. But you can also pick 400 other clips that aren't good, right? And that aren't as, like, they're great, but they're not going to run as well, and they're not going to do as well. How do you, and I think there's a couple of things that matter on that, right? So you have to understand what kind of people you're making the content for, and you also have to know how to frame the story for the particular platform. Who on your team helps you with that, or do you help clients with that? How does that work?
Yeah, so that's ultimately like a training issue. So, and the way I think about content is the automation piece is to facilitate all the glue to make it so the people that need to do value creation and I would say value creation is picking the right clip,
Mm-hmm.
make that as easy as possible so that you drop it in their lap and they can do it. But to me, there's just a few, this is a skill you have to learn. And if you're going to have one of your team members doing it, you're going to have to give them the time to explore and learn. But like there's kind of a checklist you go through. Context, like what's the context? Like a lot of conversations kind of are moving around, and like the juicy bit that provides context might be in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to kind of know how to like pull the context of the conversation. With Descript and tools like that, you'd be surprised how much you can manipulate it. You can literally take something from the middle and move it to the beginning.
Yeah, so you can take like a really juicy intro. Maybe I was like said something really salacious at the beginning, but then the context was not until 15 minutes in, and then at the end, eventually it brings it around. And so yeah, you can totally do that. But people aren't. That's not a skill that people are just born with, right? Like that's usually that's something that has to be developed. And I've noticed that's a skill that a lot of people struggle to get. I struggle with it. Is like. I'm one of those people that I can get on a podcast, talk, ask the questions, but I really struggle to, if you just say, hey, here's a camera, create content, I can't. Like maybe a couple of videos, but over the long haul, I'm not good at it. I have to have somebody directing me. But I love, so your agency more comes in and helps with the automation side of it first.
And the training, well, the training to make the automation useful. So learning how to pick the clips, learning how to use all these different tools and piecing them together is all part of it. So it's a coaching and technology package.
So walk me through the coaching side. So let's pretend that you and I work together. So you build the workflow. So now I have this workflow where I'm working through and I'm creating all this content. It's uploading. Now I have all this content.
Well, the coaching, it helps you set that workflow up, right? So like, what are the workflows, right? So who on your team is going to be doing the clips? How do they use the script? How do they start to develop the skill to learn how to pick clips, right? So that's all part of the program. So now, obviously, that's a skill. So you're going to have, no matter what it is, whether you're getting on video, learning how to make clips, even like how to make videos, like how to use the script to make good looking video or good looking clips and all that. Those are all skills, but we just help you accelerate the ability to do it. But like no one out of the gate, I shouldn't say no one, I'm sure there are some people.
Yeah. Very few.
Probably pretty rare that just anybody's just going to like pick the perfect clip on day one. So you're going to have to be patient with somebody and allow them to learn that skill. But if you teach them to learn for context, if you teach them to look for energy, if you teach them to, look for the value, like where is somebody teaching you, or where is somebody talking about a transformation from one place to the next? Like these are all things that you want to be looking for, and also learning how to manipulate. Like if the clip is perfect, except Gary said the best thing at the last 3 seconds, somebody can grab that and move it to the front.
Yeah.
And like, how do you doctor it up so that it looks natural? So yeah, that's totally part of the problem. If I just came in and just gave you a piece of technology, it wouldn't work.
Got it. Okay.
I was just going to say content creation is, it's a creative people process and workflow automation.
That's a good call.
Actually make it a useful. Yeah. It's to make it useful. It's like if you give somebody Infusionsoft and they don't know how to use it, it's going to be completely worthless. So like I could give you this Rolls Royce of an Airtable database, but if you don't know how to kind of manipulate it and put things in and communicate, then it's just going to like, it's not going to do anything for you.
Yeah. Okay. So now let's talk about the team. So a lot of people are like, and I know this was me, I was like, I want to post like 8 times a day. So I want to have 4 vertical videos. I want to have several written posts. I want to have a blog. I want to have a newsletter. I want to have all this content, right? And I don't want to do it all like every time created. I want to just go into a podcast or 2 podcasts and create 50, 60 pieces of content. And then I realize like, oh, stink, I need like a team of people to do that.
Right.
So with your system, are clients coming to you and saying like, hey, I want 50 posts a week, and then you're helping them?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So now how big of a team is needed to do something like what I just said? Like how many people are you recommending that these people have?
There's a little bit nuance to it, right? So like you mentioned blogs and stuff. So you're going to need content writers to do that. Most of my clients are not trying to do blogs. So like that's going to be one piece of it. That's like, you're going to probably need somebody that's just dedicated to doing your SEO and your blog. I'm just going to,
okay, let's take that off the table.
yeah,
Let's do 4 videos a day. I want to do 4 vertical videos a day, and I do 1 podcast, or I do 2 or 3 podcasts a week. How big of a team am I going to need to make that happen?
Not very big. And you probably only need 1 video editor. And it's also going to depend a little bit about like how high a level of video quality you want. If you want it to, and I'm just going to keep using his name because he's the one that everybody seems to know, like Alex Hormozi. If you want it to look like that, you know, you're going to probably need a video editor, at least part-time. But 4 clips a day is actually not that many. I mean, that for a good editor, that should just be, you know, 20, 30 minutes of video for that kind of style. And then you're going to want, what I just did is I hired somebody out, a remote worker. I've kind of coined this term, content operations. This is someone that knows how to use Canva. They know how to use Descript really well. I hired them full time, so they could easily pump out 8 videos a day. They can make all the thumbnails I need. They can.
And how much is that person making? Are they like a VA, or is it like, you don't have to tell me your person how much they're making, but like in general, that position, what does that pay?
I'm going to say like $1,000 to $2,000 a month.
Okay.
And I don't call them a VA. I call them content operations. So I really set out, I was like, okay, if we're going to build this content team, like you want to start to pull together people that are passionate about content. So I think one of the tricks is like, people are like, oh, I'm going to go hire a VA, or I'm going to hire a video editor. Some video editors don't want to create a bunch of short form video content. Like,
true, I've been there.
Like they want to create cinematic like video, right? So
I've tried that. I've tried taking the cinematic video editors and making them into short editors, and it didn't work well.
Yeah, they don't want to do it. So what I did was like, I was like, actually, what are these people passionate about? So I went out and I made the job role of like, hey, you're going to be in content operations. You're someone that loves content. You probably have messed around with video. You've made thumbnails in Canva. But I have all the training to teach you how to use all that stuff. So I was more interested in somebody that was really interested in content. And I knew I could train them in Descript. So I brought somebody on brand new, and they created like 10 video clips like day 1, because I had all the training, and it's just not that hard. Now we picked the clips for them. So they're not picking the clips right now, but they eventually will. But all you need is the subject matter expert. You need an architect. The architect is the person that's responsible for the business results. And that's typically in the beginning going to be the subject matter expert. Like it's going to be hard to like export the business results to somebody that doesn't understand some of this stuff yet, or isn't able to hold people accountable, or doesn't have control over the rest of the team. Right. So the subject matter expert, the architect, you're going to probably need a video editor. And then you're going to need this content operations person. And then ideally the content operation person 3 people. And ideally this content operations person that you pulled in can take transcripts and clean them up, has good enough English skills to do that.
So let's use a real example so I understand it, because I might be a little bit off on this. So like, let's use me as an example. Let's say I come in, I would be the business expert, because I'm like, hey, I do dental marketing, so I want to make a bunch of videos about dental marketing. And then, so I'm the talent, if you will. And then you have an architect. And then what was the other person? The editor, the video editor. So I have the architect and the video editor.
Yeah, you're going to have a video editor and then content operations.
Content operations. Okay. And that content operations is like strategy, and
it's more like the glue. Yeah. Like they can probably write copy. They can make thumbnails. They can use Descript really well. They know social media pretty well.
And then,
you're going to groom them into something. You're going to continue to groom them into a better performer over time.
Perfect. And then now, like, how much are we at now for a team? Like roughly, couple 4,000, 5,000 bucks.
People?
Yeah, because obviously I'm not paying myself, right? Because I'm the talent. So I'm doing this to drive more interest to my business. And then the other 2 people, they're both $2,000 a month.
This is my team, like the one I'm describing at this moment. Now, granted, one of them is my wife, so it's harder there. But like I'm paying like $1,500, $2,000 a month.
But like for your clients, when your clients are building these teams out, what are they looking at? Like, let's assume they don't have their wife to help them.
Yeah, like $1,500 to $2,000, $2,500. This should
And
be
how
a
much?
lean and mean machine.
Got it. Okay. So you got these 2 team members, and now I'm creating content. Now, how do I know what content to create? Is that the part I have to learn, or is that the part you help with? How does that work?
Yeah, that's in the beginning before we create. I mean, that before we build all this stuff. That's when we talk about those content creation frameworks. Like, how are we going to get you on camera?
Got it.
A lot of my clients are already creating, and they're just
Mm,
trying to scale up. Like, I was just on a call today. The basic was, I'm doing 5 pieces a day. I want to get to 20. How do I do it?
okay, that's good. So let's use that example. Tell me about that. So, like, what industry were they in? Just like what
Real
vertical?
estate, like
Okay.
coach and like investor.
So he's doing 20 posts,
He's doing 5 a day right now.
5 vertical videos a day, and he's like, I want to go to 20.
Yeah, and just like there's some nuance to it, but yeah, ultimately, yeah.
Okay. Now walk me through that story. Like, how are you going to help him execute that?
A lot of that comes down with the organization and getting the content that we have that he already has and just maximizing the use of it. And this gets into a lot of the nuance. So part of what my system does is, number one, you define what the outputs are. So you go into the system and you're like, I want this much content, and then it will literally tell you how much is ready, how much do you have to produce, and then per channel, like how much content is ready to go and what's going out. And so you can start to identify where are the bottlenecks in the system to extract what we should be getting out of an existing infrastructure. Because a lot of what happens is there's just a lot of waste, right? So the first things first is to define what you want, and then be able to actually measure how much is actually going out, and then being able to reverse engineer all of the different things that are going wrong to fix the throughput problem that you already have. So part of it,
so for 20 posts a day, I'm assuming 5 days a week, that's 100 posts. So how would you help him make 100 posts? Like, I'm trying to wrap my brain around that. As a lot of posts.
Yeah, well, there's multiple channels.
So he was creating 5 posts a day. So really, he's probably creating 1 post a day that he's posting on 5 platforms.
Yeah, I mean, like if we're taking all the nuance out of it, yeah, I mean,
so he wants to get to like three vertical videos a day that he's producing that's posted on a lot of the platforms.
Well, there's different types of content that you can create too, right? It's not just vertical video. There's text posts, there's image carousels.
Got it.
You know, like
okay.
yeah, like, so this isn't just like, I mean, vertical video is like the hot thing right now, but that's not the only thing people are producing. So there's images, there's text, there's tweets, there's all sorts of different things. So like, if you think about the Gary Vee model, like, he's not just posting vertical videos, there's square video, right? Yeah. So if I post, you know, people that are taking their vertical video and just posting it on LinkedIn as vertical video, you might argue that vertical video on LinkedIn kind of stands out. There's an argument to be made there, but
there is, but it doesn't perform as well. I found that posting horizontal, I still post my vertical videos there, but I find that the horizontal ones do better on there, and Facebook too. Unless you have, like, for what I talk about, like dental marketing is super niche. The vertical videos, but the horizontal ones tend to do better.
But not only that, but LinkedIn is a square video.
Yes.
So let me break it down into instead of going from like 5 to 20, let me describe something that's more nuanced.
Okay.
So you do a YouTube video, it's a rectangle, right? It's a horizontal video. So when I run my system, there's an extra play, I call it a play from a playbook, that is run on that content that turns it into a square. So the person goes through there and does the fine tweaking to that content to make it appropriate to LinkedIn. So if you go to my LinkedIn right now, you'll see a square video that used to be a YouTube video. And I can do the same thing with all this vertical video. So my system helps articulate all of the transformations that need to happen to properly get the content into the context it's supposed to be in. So a lot of the moves are not that hard, but if the tasks that your team has to take aren't literally almost tasks. So like in my system, it'll say, here's a YouTube video. It now needs to be square. And when I say that, right next to it is all the guidelines and all the things that actually have to happen. And it's an actual task all the way down to that granular piece. And it also is keeping track of, it needs to meet these requirements before it goes through. And it needs to be done on this date. And it's all ordered. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is that part of the challenge is just making sure that there's clear specificity on all of the different assets that need to be made from this asset, and like very clear guidelines of what that actually means, and then also the workflow and the team communication to make it possible, so that people are not going around and hunting for these different things. So a lot of it is just clear definition and actual specification. Because if you just go to your team and say, I want 20 pieces of content, I want 60, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah,
even though your team probably could do it, you would think that they should be able to do it, but they're just not going to be able to do it.
Yep. I've actually been there. I've done that before. So yeah, you're 100% right. It literally is not that simple. And it took me a long time to like work through that and figure it out. So I love what you're doing. And I think it can be a lot of help to people. If someone wants to reach out and get a hold of you and use you to help them actually accomplish this, because as you and I just working through this, we went through 30 minutes like really, really fast. And I feel like we're just scratching the surface. How would someone connect with you?
You ask good questions. Like you were going specific, so that's good. Yeah, I mean, you can go to sgplabs.com. I'm also Stephen, and it's with the PH, STEPHENGPOPE, pretty much on most of the platforms. If you go to Google and you just type Stephen G. Pope, you'll have like an amplitude of, or a number of ways to hit me up. And I'm pretty much active on all those channels. So yeah, I mean, I'd love to hear from you, or just answer any questions.
Awesome. Is there anything that we didn't cover that you feel like, man, you know what, I think the audiences would be valuable to them?
One thing that I would say is like, and this is a mistake I made, and I hear, and it's a mistake that a lot of people make when they try to scale like this. You said, I want to do a blog. I want to do this. I want to do this. I want to do this. You'll actually scale faster if you pick one piece of content, get it really perfect, and then move to the next one, and then move to the next one. Because one piece is already overwhelming enough. And so if you focus on one content type and one distribution platform and get that really dialed in, even without my systems, you will scale faster than if you go to your team and you're like, I want to be everywhere all the time.
Well, and see, and here's what happened. So you're 100% right. That's what I ended up doing, was just niching down. Then I expanded, and now I went too wide. Like I have too much now. So now I'm like, and it's too many different random things. So now I'm bringing it back in. So it's interesting. We're like, okay, we kind of mix the voices here. We have too many different, you're talking about dental marketing, and then you're talking about entrepreneurship, and then you're talking about running a marketing agency and like tactical marketing things. So it's kind of confusing. So we're getting clear on that. So yeah, it's definitely a journey. And if I would have known you at the beginning of it, I didn't meet you till like the tail end of it. It would have saved me a ton of time and a lot of energy.
Well, it's also interesting too, because like you can figure out a lot of that ahead of time, but also like just taking action towards these things, is also a big part of it. Like there are some things that you won't uncover in your content, like Pareto's principle, right? Like, yeah. So there are some things in your strategy that will not be uncovered by any amount of like wishful thinking or planning or stuff. So, I mean, in a way, like you might have, I mean, you're figuring it out nonetheless. So like a lot of people just never get started because it's like, it's way too overwhelming for them to even start.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I really appreciate it, man. You did a great job today, and I can't wait to drop this episode. I know it's going to be a big help to people.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Thanks.